Hello, my name's Keith Rucker. This week was a good week for me. Actually, a little over a week ago, I got UPS truck came and brought by a big old box, dropped it off. When I first went out there and picked it up, I didn't know what it was until I reached down to pick it up, realized how heavy it was, and I knew exactly what it was. I've been talking with Keith Fenner over email over the Christmas holidays, and he told me he was going to get to working on my pulleys that I had sent him several months ago. He was going to try to get those done right around the first of the year, and then got some emails back and forth with him again right around New Year's that he'd gotten started on the project. So I knew that he probably had them done. The video didn't get posted until yesterday. I've had these for, like I said, probably a little over a week now, and I've purposely been just kind of leaving them out of sight because I wanted to wait until Keith had a chance to post his videos before I showed off his work, and because I knew a lot of you guys watch both of our channels, and I wanted to let him post his videos first. But now that he's posted them on how he made the contours on these flat belt pulleys, I wanted to just show them off a little bit and talk a little bit about them. So anyway, when I sent the castings to Keith Fenner, I built this little wooden crate for them. I'm a real stickler about shipping stuff, and I've gotten too many packages in the mail where things were busted because someone just didn't do a good job packing them, and these were mine. I've got a lot of work in these, so I built this wooden crate. It's a custom built wooden crate, and these pulleys are on shafts down inside of this, and it's pretty much made where this doesn't have to be run over by a truck for it to be hurt, and may not even hurt them then, but I just wanted to make sure they were well protected, and Keith sent them back to me in the same packaging. So anyway, got these in. I do want to spend just a minute or two and tell you about the backstory on these pulleys. I know particularly over on Keith Fenner's channel, a lot of people may not be keeping, or a lot of people aren't, I guess, keeping track of what's going on my channel and know about these, and really even some of my newer subscribers who may not have gone back and watched some of my older videos may not know the backstory on these. So back, I don't know, it's been over a year ago now when we first started on this project. I've been working on this restoration project now for a year and 3 months. It's been a major undertaking, by far the most challenging machine I've ever worked on to restore. But when we started taking everything apart and getting it ready to clean up and reassembling and fixing things, these two pulleys on the shafts, and these go to the side heads on this planer matcher. So if you're not familiar with a planer matcher, it's a woodworking piece of machinery. I say woodworking, probably being a planing mill, a larger business that custom finishes lumber. So it was built in the early 1900s. It's probably about 100 years old, the machine, maybe a little over 100 years old now. But you would basically feed in a rough piece of lumber into one end. It's like a four-sided molder is what people would probably call it in today's terminology. But there's a planer head that planes the top of the board flat. First it goes through the feed rollers, then it goes to the planer head. As soon as it comes out of the planer head, there's two upright shafts with cutter heads, and these are the side heads, and that cuts the edge of the board. Or you could put a molding knife in there and cut something like a tongue and groove if you were making tongue and groove flooring or tongue and groove paneling or something like that. It then goes to a second set of feed rollers that pulls the board on through, and it goes across another planer head, this time on the bottom. So when a board goes through here, it finishes all four sides in one operation. It's a pretty large, heavy machine. Again, if you've been watching my channel, you've probably seen some pictures of it and have an idea. So these pulleys, there's two of them, a pair of them. That one still has the shaft, and I never did even try to take this one out after we messed the first one up. But these pulleys were running vertical. It's being powered off of a horizontal jack shaft. This is an old machine, flat belt machinery, big pulleys, a lot of exposed belts, flat belts flapping. So there's a big jack shaft up in the front that has a bunch of big pulleys on it. There's two pulleys that have the belts. They come off the front pulley, and those belts are running kind of on top of one another. They make a half twist and then go around these side head pulleys. That's the reason for the flange at the top, because it's naturally trying, that belt's naturally trying to pull, I think up or down. I think it's up. I have to go back and look and see how these are on. Yeah, I know it's up. Yeah, for sure. So the belt's always trying to push up because of that half twist that's in there and because of the rotation. So that's the reason for the flange, is just to keep the belt on there. Now, one thing that we discovered when we got these started looking at them is that the face on this, the crown on this, the original crown on this, has worn. I've actually have found a guy in North Carolina that has the exact same machine that I'm running. His is in much better shape and is still in operation. I asked him to look at the pulleys on his, and his have a perfectly radius crown on them, where mine are kind of thinner at the top. And I think that's just where, over the years of this machine being used, the millions and millions of board feet that have been run through it, is that it's just worn the top of this pulley, where it doesn't have that crown that goes all the way up like the new ones that we did. But we really did the best job we could getting some measurements off of his that were in better shape, and that's what we sent Keith Fenner for a pattern to use. So the profile on these isn't exactly the same as what he did, but again, these were worn, and we're copying the ones that are in a little bit better shape off of another machine. So why did we have to have new ones built? Well, that's my fault. When I was taking these apart, I was trying to get the shaft out, and I had gone over, I was on my hydraulic press, I'd heated this up to kind of swell it up a little bit, I'd cleaned the shaft up real good on this one, and I was pressing it out. And the shaft was moving, it was being real stubborn, it wasn't moving great, and then all of a sudden, pop, the whole casting just broke, and you can see right here there's a crack that runs right down the face, and it's right along the keyway that's inside. Once that happened, once I settled down and kind of got my thoughts together and really started looking at things, we went ahead and got the shaft out, of course, and looked at it in the keyway. I don't have the keyway anymore. I wish I did, because that was the problem. What had happened was that whoever put this machine together, probably doing a repair at some point in time, instead of putting just a regular keyway in that slot, they took a ground piece of keyway that was bigger than what goes in there, and they ground an angle on the front, basically a wedge. And then they took that keyway, took it down inside the flange here on the inside, and they took a punch and they hammered it in there. And as it turned out, the way that I was pressing that shaft, it was actually tightening that wedge as it was going. And the whole wedge had just moved, it would have been fine, but it didn't. Like I said, it was tightening it up. The shaft was moving, but as it was moving, it was tightening up that wedge, and eventually pop. The whole casting just busted, and we had this nice crack down there. So what do you do when that happens? I guess it was either give up on the restoration or we go about making a new one. I considered making them out of steel, but that was just a lot of work. And quite honestly, in my experience, on flat belt pulleys, cast iron just grips the belts better than steel does, and that's the reason cast iron was used so much for pulleys. On flat belt pulleys. So I decided we were just going to cast some new ones. As long as we were doing one, I said, you know what, I'm going to just replace them both. We're not even going to worry about trying to get this one off. So I went into, did some pattern making work. I've done a good bit of pattern making work. I probably made 30 or 40 patterns over the years when I've been restoring different pieces of machinery, and I had a piece that was broken or a piece that was missing and had to recreate something while doing a restoration. I'll make a wooden pattern just like a foundry would do, and send it to a foundry and have a new one cast. So this was turned on a wood lathe. It is perfectly round. We had to factor into this all kinds of things. When you pour cast iron and it cools, it shrinks. We had to factor into our dimensions that shrink factor that takes place when this goes, or when you do the casting. So anyway, we created a wooden pattern. And you can see here the black part is the actual casting. The yellow parts are on the end. These are what they call core prints. We actually cast this so that it had a hollow spot in the center for the shaft, and also on the end down here where that recess goes into the pulley. Instead of having that cast solid and having a whole lot of material to cut out, we created a core. So this is a sand column that goes down in there. So the yellow parts are what's called the core prints, and we also made this core box that we sent to the foundry, and this is what they make that little column. So this kind of looks like a potato masher. They would actually make two of these and then glue the two halves together instead of making it all in one solid piece. But they would glue those together, and that would then those yellow parts would actually fit down into these core prints. And when you had the hollow inside the sand casting, the core prints would be in there, and that would then give you a sand column that goes through here that you knock out when the casting comes out to leave the holes in there. So if you're interested in how we did the pattern making, I actually did a series of videos on those. Those were some of our very first videos I posted on YouTube. They're on my site. You can go take a look at them. I'm not going to go into a lot more detail on that because we have some videos that detail that. So once I got my castings back, I'll be honest with you, I was a little bit disappointed when we got the castings back, because when they came in, as you saw in Keith Fenner's video, there was a lot of run out in them. They were not as round as the pattern that I sent them, and I don't know exactly what happened. You know, I know we used a little small foundry that specializes in one-off parts. So it's a foundry up in Pennsylvania, Cattail Foundry. I highly recommend them. I use them all the time. But for whatever reason on this job, the castings came back where, you know, we got this split part here where it's split in the mold. And, you know, in this direction it was right on, but for whatever reason in this direction, it had kind of shrunk in both directions. And I don't know if that was a shrinkage from the cast iron. It very well could have been, or whether that was something that happened in the molding process, where the sand molds came out a little bit narrower than what it should have been. So I wasn't there when that was done. I've done some sand molding and casting before myself. I've got a little foundry set up that I can do brass and aluminum, but I can't do cast iron. I can't get enough heat in my furnace to melt cast iron. I usually send those to Cattail to get them done. Overall, I was very satisfied with the castings, but I did notice that we had that run out. Fortunately, though, I factored in a little bit extra material on these than what you would normally do in a commercial setting. I wasn't so much worried about having to remove a little bit extra metal. I wanted to make sure I had plenty, and lucky for me, I did that because we needed that little bit extra, as it turned out. Because of the run out. And I will also note that you know, in Keith Fenner's video, you saw one of the castings on the outside really had a good bit of run out. And the reason that it was that way is that when I bored the hole for the center, we had to get it lined up on that inside bore. That was because we basically had a hole through the casting already. There was, you know, plenty of meat in there to get it trued up, but because of some of the funky things that happened when we got it, it wasn't running very true, and we had to kind of get it a little bit even more cockeyed by, you know, not a lot, but a little bit, to get that bore just right, and that made the outside part of the casting wobble a little bit more. In the end, it turned out fine. They cleaned up good, and all is good to go. So here are the castings that we got back from Keith Fenner, and are the finished parts, I guess, finished pulleys. And of course, Keith did the turning of the profile. I was not able to do that. I don't have a tracing attachment on my lathe. He's set up to do that, so I contacted him, and he was gracious enough to agree to take on this job for me. You know, I could have probably taken it to a CNC shop and got it done. They could have just programmed it in the computer, but hey, I'm an old school guy. I like doing things the old-fashioned way, and I really think that tracing attachment that Keith Fenner has is just really cool, and I really kind of wanted to see that operation do this curve, and anyway, I was very happy with the results, and I really enjoyed seeing that operation. One of these days I would love to find a lathe that had a tracing attachment for myself. Just one other comment I can think of here. I know Keith mentioned in his video about the thickness here on the front. He said, man, I wish that there was a little more meat right there than what there is. And you know, I agree with you, Keith. I wish there was a little more meat there too. But you know, let's look at the original ones. You know, if you look close, there's actually more meat on mine than there is on the original ones. Not by a lot, but a little bit more. That's pretty darn thin. The reason that this recess is in here is that this pulley will actually slide down over the top. The bearing assembly can actually go up into the bottom of the pulley, so there's some adjustment in the height of those cutter heads, and when you adjust it just right, this is made for the whole bearing assembly to fit up inside the pulley. So that's the reason that's machined out the way it is, and you pretty much have to have a certain diameter in there to get the clearance. So you know, again, I wish there was a little more meat on there too, but that's pretty much the way the originals were. We're copying the originals. And let's see, that's about all I've got to say on it. I just want to thank Keith Fenner for the fine job you did machining these pulleys out for me. You did something that I couldn't get done in my shop, and I really appreciate you taking on the job. I appreciate you taking the time to shoot the video. I know from experience it takes an awful lot of time, guys, to put these videos together. It's not as simple as just going out there and turning the camera on. You got to think about what you're doing. You got to think about how you're going to tell your story, and then you got to take all that raw video footage and edit it and turn it into a movie, basically. And all of that takes a lot of time. And Keith, I appreciate you taking the time to do that and share it, you know, not only with the guys that are watching your channel, but the guys who are watching the restoration of my machine, and who've been asking me over the last couple of months when you were going to get around to getting this done. And by the way, no worries on that. I've got so much to do on this machine, I'm going to be busy for months. So you have not held us up at all. This was not a high priority to get done because, like I said, I've got plenty of other things to work on. But now that I have these, as soon as I get through with the feed roller assemblies that I'm working on right now, which hopefully we'll get through with fairly soon, I'll probably jump back down there and get these installed back on there. I've already restored the bearing on these, already re-poured new bearings, put new shafts on there, got the cutter heads on there. Basically the shafts are just sitting there waiting for the pulleys to go on. So we have to go in and pull all that out. I think I do have to cut keyways on those shafts. I wanted to wait until I got the pulleys before I cut the keyways, just to make sure I had everything exactly how I wanted it and could match them to the pulleys that were going on there. So I'll have to pull those shafts out, cut the keyways, and then just put it all back together, and the side head assemblies will then be 100% done as well. So again, thank you, Keith Fenner, for taking this job on. Thank you to all of my subscribers who've been watching my channel. Man, it still just blows me away that there's as many people out there that enjoy watching this stuff that I have the pleasure of being able to do. I love working on old equipment and old machinery and bringing it back to life, and I'm really enjoying having the opportunity to share this stuff with you guys. And you know, I hope that I'm teaching you guys a few things. I'm going to tell you, you guys are teaching me as much as I'm learning from you. I get great tips from you guys all the time. You know, I watch other channels out there, like Keith Fenner's channel, like A-Bomb79, like Tom Lipton out in California, and there's some other guys that I'll watch too. And you know, I'm always learning new little tricks, and you know, that's really the beauty of it. You know, I told someone recently, you know, that you know, I worked in a machine shop when I first graduated from high school, and I had the opportunity to work around seasoned machinists. And you know, for the last 20-something years, I really haven't worked professionally as a machinist, but it's continued to be, you know, something that I do more in my hobby, I guess you could say, in restoring machinery, something I take very seriously. You know, and I've built upon that foundation that I got working in the machine shop years ago, but now I don't have the opportunity to be around other machinists and learn things from them. So through YouTube, I'm able to kind of sit and watch some other guys and see how they do things. And the neat things about machine shop work is that most of the time when you get a job in a shop, there's about as many different ways to get something done as there are people to do it. And you know, a lot of times the way you go about doing something is dictated by what machinery you have, what tools you have, what tooling you have. You come up with a way that works for you, and that way is right. Someone else in someone else's shop that's set up differently may go about it a totally different way. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the way I'm doing it. There's nothing wrong with the way someone else will do it. But what I enjoy is when the guys say, hey, great job. I might have done it a little bit differently, not throwing that out as saying you did it wrong, but this is how I go about it. But I learn from that, and that's what I love about watching these other guys on YouTube, is that I'm still able to go out there and learn, even though I'm not in a shop working side by side with someone that I can learn from. So that's all for this video. We'll try to get back out this weekend and hopefully shoot some more video. I've been getting a lot of requests about that train video. I'm working on that, guys. I've kind of got a storyline of how I want to do that, and I'm also trying to do something for the museum. They're wanting a training video that they can use with new volunteers that come out to work on the steam locomotives. So I'm trying to incorporate not only just showing you guys some pictures of me driving the train, but actually talking about the whole steam locomotive and going through some things so that when we're trying to train a new volunteer, they can watch a video and at least get an introduction to it. So it's going to be a pretty in-depth video, and I'm slowly getting my footage put together to get that storyline. So it's going to take me a while to get that done because again, I'm trying to do something for the museum there to help them out. But we'll get it out there soon, I promise. So just be patient and keep on watching. We'll get it up there as soon as we can. Thank you, guys.